is Friday, April 12th, 2013, 5:21 a.m. Pacific Time, and we are entering the world of Uncle Pete's Corner, number 7, and webinar number 57. Oh, they're matching up. You got to keep it up. WINDEV Loopers, Part 3. He's going to be talking about breaks in headers and footers this week, and anything else you want to ask him about. So, welcome back from Mississippi, Uncle Pete.
Morning. Okay, well, I hope everyone was paying attention the last 2 weeks, because now we get into the hard stuff. We were just messing around before now. And you'll quickly see why we created a class to manage this whole thing, because when we get into breaks and headers and footers, it gets nasty quick. So let's do a quick review of where we were. All right, so this is the page we've been working on. We've got several attributes that are doing cross-throughs on certain price levels, turning them red for others. I believe on page 3 or 4, we'll actually see some that are being marked invisible based on the price. And we have an array that's filling this, and then a class that's building that array. So that's how far we've gotten. Now, our boss client, whichever 4-letter word you want to pick, comes to us and says, you know, that's all great and wonderful, but man, it'd sure be neat if we grouped the prices. I want anything under $10 to be low, $10 to $15 to be medium, and anything over $15 to be high, and I want the prices grouped that way. Well, now we're into doing breaks and groups, and that is possible with loopers. It does add quite a bit of complexity, but it allows you to do some really neat things, and this is a simple example, but you can actually use this to do a child header, grandchild style interface onto your web forms. So you'll find that you can't do a looper in a looper, which is a challenge we ran into on a project recently. And that's the reason I learned so much about these breaks, is we used a looper in a looper to emulate that functionality, or we used breaks to emulate that functionality of a looper in a looper. And that's kind of what we're going to do today. So first step is we need to get a new property, because we need a PriceClass property so that we can break on that PriceClass. So remember, we have a class for our record manager. This is the array, is an array of these product record classes. And again, this is Andy's file manager classes with a few tweaks here and there. As you see, I added a new private member called PriceClass, and I prefixed it with a C, and the reason for that is when I'm going to expose the private member by a property, I want the private, or the property, to have the name that I'm going to refer to. So I just prefix the private member with a C so that I can distinguish between the two. So once we have the member defined there,
so that
we can come
Pete,
over.
So
Yes.
that price class is kind of like a calculated field, because
Not yet. This is just a
yeah, but
variable.
it will be a calculated
We're about to,
value rather than being in the database.
once I
Yeah,
add the once I add the property,
yeah,
it
I
will
like
be.
that. That's cool. I was wondering how you were going to do that.
So now that we have the member, we come over to our product record class. We right click and we say generate the property. And when we do that, it'll ask what we want to call it. And here's where I call it actually PriceClass. Now it's telling me that's invalid because I've already generated it. And when you do that, the normal one that it generates is just very generic. All it will have in it is result C price class and C price class equals value. All it does is anytime you refer to price class, it's going to return whatever's in C price class. Now we're going to get a little fancier, and when we retrieve price class, we're going to say if it's less than 10, set C price class equals low, 10 to 15 medium, otherwise set it to high. Then we're going to return C price class. And there's your answer, Arnold. That's how we're going to. So now C price class always contains the value of low, medium, or high. Dynamically, anytime we refer to price class, it's going to figure out what value price class should have. And while we're at it, we go ahead and make the assignment of price class private, because we don't want the developer to actually ever set price class. It's always going to be dynamically set. Okay, that makes sense to everybody? We're all class experts at this point, right?
So that's hard coded that you have that. So can you can't add a property like that on the fly then?
That is on the fly.
No, I mean user. That is on the fly, exactly, but not necessarily user defined. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. So at this point, we have our new property, and we could actually come into our page that we had from last week, and we could add a new static, the whole price class. We could add a new attribute, link to that static, link to our new price class property we just created. And now if we run the page, oh, it's going to blow up because of something I was playing with right before we started the webinar. So just a second. I know that's funny there. Yeah. Don't look. Here. Watch this. Hold my beer. All right. So as we see, our new property is working fine. We're getting high, low, mediums. So just like that, we've got our property in, and we're getting the values we want. I would suggest that we don't let the boss/client know how quick we got to this stage, because that was pretty damn easy, wasn't it? But he actually said he wanted it grouped. That's where we're going to get into a little bit of more complications. The first step to grouping it obviously would be to sort it so that we can get it sorted in the right order. We can't group until we sort. Well, we have a couple of ways that we could do that. Remember, we're filling that array with fetch data method, which the fetch data method is actually in our management class, where we're going out and getting the records out of the database and putting them into the array. Well, we could pass a property to set the order by clause, and that would get them into our array in the right order. That would work fine. The problem with that is now next week the boss comes to us and says, man, that's great grouping them by price class, but I also want to group them by color and give the user an option on which way they group them. Well, then we'd be issuing another call to fetch data with a different order by clause. That means rereading 5,000 records out of the database. Well, we already have the records in the array, so it'd be way more efficient to just sort that array instead of sorting the entire, pulling them out of the database again. So instead, we're going to create a little method called sort array in our project management class. And we do that just by right-clicking, new method, call it sort array, and we're going to pass it in sort member. And it's a simple one line of code that says array sort, which is a WX function that does exactly what it says it's going to do. The next parameter is the name of the array we're going to sort. Well, since our class has the name of the array in a variable, we'll use a little indirection magic to get that array name. That way this code is generic and doesn't have to be modified if we were to copy this into another version of our file manager class. As member is the type of sort. Because we are sorting a structure or a class that is a complex element, we have to tell it we're sorting as member, which means we're going to sort on one of the pieces of that structure or class. And then the final thing is the value that we actually passed in, which is the name of the member that we're going to sort on. So now, if we come back over, and actually in, all right, so we're just going to call sort array, and we're going to pass in price, which is the name of the price member. And I'll show you why we're not doing price class in just a second. All right, so now if we come over to our management class, let's put a debug before and after. Actually, we don't need the after. And run it. Okay, we stopped right before we issued the array sort. If we look at the array right now, first one is 1963. Second one's 1847. Third one's 699. Obviously not sorted at this point. If we step through, now if we look, now we got a price of 0, a price of a penny, price of a penny. So we can now see that it has sorted our prices. And if we actually do go, it'll load our page. And now we see that we get all of our lows first. And we probably got to jump up several pages before we get into our highs. We got some cheap products. So
Yeah.
all right, so now we've got it sorted the way we want. Now, why did I sort on price instead of on PriceClass? Well, let's run it again, and I'll show you one shortcoming of properties. This is all of the elements that are in that array, and the array is an array of that class. If you'll notice, when you go through this, we're seeing all the members. We're not seeing properties. Remember, properties are dynamic, on-the-fly things that actually are just functions that are magically called when we refer to it as a variable, but it's really running a function. Well, those aren't exposed as elements of the array because they're dynamic and actually generated when you refer to them. So PriceClass is actually not in here for us to sort on. So that was our first challenge. Now, if we really needed to sort on PriceClass, we could get fancy and make it a member so that we could get an actual value in there so that it would be exposed to the array and we could sort on it instead of having it as a property. But in this instance, we can get we can cheat a little bit, since really all PriceClass is doing is separating the prices into 3 categories based on the value of the price. We just sort on price and we've accomplished the same thing. So that's the reason I sorted on price. The other advantage of sorting on price is if we sorted on PriceClass, even if we could, low, medium, and high don't work out alphabetically the way we would want them to show. So that's another reason to sort on price. So all we had to do was, once we fetched the data, we could sort on price. Now, the reason that that is handy, and the reason we did that way, is just make sure we understand why we're using the array instead of just modifying that fetch data. Okay, so here we are, we're sorted by price. Click that button. And now we've resorted on description by just sorting the array instead of going back out to the database and re-pulling those 5,000 records. It just sorted that array that's already in memory. And that's where using the classes and the arrays really start paying off, is when you do things like that. You know, you're now working in memory, not doing all the extra database access that's just going to really start killing you.
Excuse me, Pete. So
Yes.
do you have any limitations, or do you check, like you guys deal with big data, right? So
Yeah.
So if you have an array, it's actually eating up memory in your computer, right?
Yeah, well, we do limit the amount of records that's in your array. In other words, I wouldn't put more than, well, it depends on the size of the records, but let's take a rule of thumb of 250,000 records. First of all, it becomes physically mentally impossible for someone to deal with anything over about 100, 150,000 because they won't page down that far anyway. Okay? So, you know, you filter, do a limit of, say, 100,000, you know, do a limit of 150,000, something like that, and it won't take up that much memory, especially in today's machines. But no, you don't want to pull 13 million records down in one shot. No.
Okay, so you keep it in like some kind of filtered state, and and they know about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it all depends on what you're doing. You know,
that makes sense.
Where this really pays off is all those tables that rarely change that you refer to all the time, like your terms table. All those lookup tables, doing those as file manager classes immediately cuts all that database access out, because once they're loaded, they stay in memory, and from that moment forward, all you're doing is grabbing them out of RAM.
And update it if it gets touched, right?
Right. You know, and you know, how often do you modify your terms table? Not
I'm just thinking
often.
like an employee list that you pick from. That could change.
Right. You know, and again, that's, you know, you like everything we do, it's the appropriate tool for the appropriate job.
Okay.
Now I have
just
loaded.
A question from my side.
I have loaded up to 200,000 records and in a program, and it has been less than a mega memory.
Interesting. But just a quick question. So you're saying in so many words, that if you've got records you don't want to be in the browser, for example, employee list, and this guy has got a sub-department of that employee list, so you actually filter on your calling to fetch data out what he's not supposed to be seeing on his machine, that you don't have a security compromise. Is that what you're saying? And then from then onwards, you just play around with arrays.
Yeah, that would be one use. You could actually have a property in that file manager class that you know, you could actually wrap your security into that file manager class, so that he would never, you know, all the select statements that are generated would automatically filter out records that they don't have access to.
You see, I'm just from a concern point of view. Most people won't know how to get into the browser or find the lower level of the information which is filtered or it's displayed, but it's still a compromise if the information is sitting there when it's not supposed to be on the local machine, if it's sensitive data. So it's better to filter it before you put it into the array, basically. That's the best way.
Well, first of all, let's talk about what we're talking about here. It all depends on, you know, we're working with WebDev here. WebDev, that array is actually on the server's memory, not the local user's machine.
Oh, okay. So what they're effectively seeing is what they see on the screen, nothing more. So your array can be a lot.
Remember, in a web environment, you can't put anything on the user's machine other than by extraordinary methods. All you're doing is displaying HTML code.
I've got it.
So anything you're doing with arrays and variables, that's all happening on your server's memory. Now, the other side of that coin is, and that's the reason you have to be more careful, you know, and it depends on the type of site you're running, you know, that mega memory Andy was talking about with, what was it, 250,000 records, Andy? That's all well and good. Now, get 100, 200 users.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem then. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay, got you.
Right. So, right. So yeah, that's where you have to, when you're in a web environment, you have to remember that you're using your servers.
Yeah, the cumulative effect of all that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. All right. So now let's now that we've gotten our sort, let me get get back to the one we actually want to work on. And now for Uncle Pete's Confession of the Week, this is all the further I got prepared this morning. So now we are, in that uncharted, behind the curtain territory that I do every week.
So stop the recording?
Nah, let it go.
No.
We need evidence.
Yeah, let me go. Got to show how I work on the fly.
Remember, it's the same line of code since 1985.
Yeah, Steve, what you got?
I was just going to say, Pete, that you realize you could sort by more members than just price. So you could sort by price, then description. So in your low, medium, and high, they'd be alphabetically presented.
Yes. And all you would do is this.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that is that's probably hard to see, but that's a semicolon.
Oh, that's way too hard.
It's very powerful.
That's way too hard.
Very powerful.
That confused me the first few times I did it. And now you see that they are sorted. And until we get over $1, we're not going to.
That's up in page 500 and something, Pete.
Yeah. But that was one
dollar store ain't.
Man, I've got to raise the
dollar store ain't got nothing on you, bud.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. That was one thing, and thanks for pointing that out, Stephen. That because we're so used to putting a comma when we do that kind of thing.
Exactly. And you can put plus and minuses there too, so you can reverse sort as well.
I fought forever on it, and it gives you a really weird error. Let's put that comma in stuff, because I guarantee you will do that at some point. Price, description, member not found in class or structure. Okay, I thought that was saying that, one of the ones I told it wasn't there. Sorry, I hit the button. What that's saying is, hey, I'm treating this whole thing, price, comma, description, as one member. And I can't find price, comma, description, because semicolon is the separator that it uses when you're listing members.
Yeah, all you had to do was ask, Pete. I knew that.
Yeah.
Hey, Pete, so Steve was mentioning you can do the plus and minus, so you can put a minus on that price and be descending? So the high would be first, or what? Okay.
The semicolon separates the field, and the plus and minus does the sorting by ascending or descending.
Okay.
And as you see,
very powerful.
Oh, okay, because of the it's sorted ascending on description, descending on price now, because I didn't put a minus in front of description.
Yeah, that's right. And what do you have in front of popcorn? Oh, that's why. Okay.
There's a quote.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a quote. Yeah. And the other important thing to notice here is, because we wrote that method to just pass in sort member and made it nice and generic, you see, we didn't change any code to do all those different sorts we did, other than just what we passed in. So, we've now made a very powerful, we got 2 lines of code over here. And really the fetch data line, we would only load that once to get the data in the array. And then we could issue tons of sort arrays whenever we needed to. Okay, so that was a little side jaunt into the classes and the arrays a little more. When you start using the classes and the arrays, it's very important to understand those concepts. Now let's look at doing our breaks. Here's our looper. and we come into the description of that looper. We go to the Content tab, and you'll notice this section down here that says Breaks. And we want to edit a break. No, we don't have it. We need to add our attributes. I added it to the other one. I didn't add it to this one. Let's add a new attribute for PriceClass.
You don't put underscore like the others?
No, I don't use underscores. I think that you know, I've been trying to get a petition go around to have the underscore removed from every keyboard made, but you know, my petition isn't making it very far. People like Andy keep
putting it back in,
fighting it. Yeah.
I have a colleague here who agrees with you. He hates my underscores, so that's good.
Way to go, Steve.
Well, see, you and Andy need to work together, and me and your colleague need to work together. We'll all be happy. All right. All I'm doing is adding that price class like I had over in the other example. So we added the attribute, and then we come down here and link it to PriceClass. Just test it and make sure it's really working. We haven't lied. And it does. Okay, so now if we come into the Content tab for the looper, and that's, if you click on one of these columns, you know you can no longer get to that Content tab. You have to be in the looper itself so that you can get to the Content tab. We come into the breaks, and there's our price class. We want to break on price class. We click OK, and holy cow, what did it just do to my looper? Well, what it did was we now have a header, a detail, and a footer. So now we can take this price class and put it up here in the header instead. All right, and now we see how we got high. And then we're seeing all the details for high. And if we went far enough, we would eventually get into our lows. But it's a ways out there. But a natural feature is if you click on that header, it will collapse. I'm getting a medium one that collapsed, I thought. Yeah, that was really weird. Never had it do that before. Okay, let's try that again.
Might be the descending price is confusing it.
Back to, it may be the, I've never tried breaks with a pager, and I think that may be the issue as well. And that was one of the things I was going to work on this morning and didn't get to. Wow, that's special. Told me it couldn't access the network. Okay, so now, hello? Yeah, I think we're going to have to take the pager off for right now. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, it wants to be in Ajax mode. Oh, this cell must. I got to get our cell to allow it to grow. Hang on just a second here. What I'm trying to do is just set it up so that we actually load our entire looper on one page. It's going to go down forever once I get it to grow properly. My problem is we're stuck inside a cell there's quite a few cells on this page that are getting in our way. In fact, here's what I'm going to do to make life a little easier. I'm just going to come in here and unlink this. And just put our looper in here. Not grown properly. Oh, I know where it is. Being retarded. we tell it only 9 rows, no matter what we tell it to adopt to, it's not going to go forever. Now, set this anchoring. By content. And that's going to take a while to load because it's actually rendering an entire looper.
So is that going to be a really tall page?
Yeah. And you know, we wouldn't do this normally. I'm just trying to get some good example that, you know, so that we can see what's really going on. Let me do this. I'm going to add filter string over here. I'm going to set it up so that we don't get quite as much data, so that we can see what's going on. All right. Okay, all I did was I set it so that we're only getting certain prices now, so we're not getting quite as much data. And what we were talking about is, now if we go back over and look at our page design, okay, this is our detail section. We also have a footer section here. We have a header section there. And we moved our price class up into the header section. So now when we run the page, we only see our price class when it changes. We're not getting.
Maybe make the header bigger so you can see it right off the bat.
I saw
No,
it go
I'm
past.
actually not sure why our name disappeared on us.
Oh, yeah.
We must have. Oh. Sure why name disappeared. I have to play with it a little bit. Anyway, what we're working on here is by default just clicking on this header anywhere in that header will make the looper collapse that section. So now you have your 3 price classes, low, medium, and high. And if we just wanted to see medium, we could click on medium, and now we're seeing all the medium prices. Now the reason this looks a little goofy is because, remember, it's also showing the footer here. So we can actually do, let's put something in here so that we see that. We're going to get there. And see, there's the footer for that section. So we can do some stuff in that footer. But our entire looper area is, not sure why we're seeing that extra space, actually. There's our footer. There's our header. Like I said, looper, when you start dealing with breaks, they get a little goofy really fast. And these are all challenges I've had to deal with. As you see, for some reason, it's generating this one. It's like treating that extra space for the footer like it needs to have it there. Those are definitely issues that I've dealt with on these loopers. We can also make the footer invisible.
You have to redo the layout. Do you have to redo the layout after you've added footers and headers? Is that what it's wanting you to do?
I'm not sure. Like I said, I've really struggled to get these things to ever lay out right. Once you do, it's one of those black magic kind of move things around and suddenly it'll start working. And it's also a browser thing of, it's repositioning. But what it's doing is it's treating the footer area like it needs to display that actually for every row. I remember running into that once before, but I'll have to do a little research. But let's move on for today. Otherwise, we're going to dig down into something that's not going to give you a lot of value. Okay, so at this point, you see that we've got our headers. Instead of showing it on every one, we're now showing it in a header. And we can click on those and expand or collapse those different sections. Now, what I generally do is I come in and I turn that feature off. Right here, and now a click does not do that. And the reason for that is that if you have any entry fields in your header, which when you get into tables that you're trying to emulate a parent-child type relationship, you will have entry fields in your header. That screen says a simple click in the background. What it really means is any click anywhere in that damn header is going to cause it to collapse. So anytime you try to do anything, it wants to collapse and expand those sections. So instead, I turn off that feature, and then I true Julia Childs moment. I will copy a button from another project. This is the monster one. This entire thing is a looper. That's a header, that's the detail section, and then there's a footer. So as you see, this is what we're talking about of a parent-child type relationship being represented as a break in the looper. But what we came over here for was that magic button right here. Now this is what I really love about the PC Soft products. Copy that button, put it in my project. Code. Get out of the class for this thing. Yeah, that button's actually, yeah, I'm going to have to do a little work. That's too much work for us to try to do interactive. That what I need to do is actually add an actual property to the class to maintain whether each header is collapsed or not. And what we wind up doing is we wind up, our array actually represents our header and our detail. We're going to go back to our old style. You know, we learned early on in our programming careers to normalize our data. Well, to manage this looper, because it's one giant looper, we have to go back and mash all of our data back together so that we have our header and our footer for each record all in one flat structure instead of being normalized into two arrays or whatever. So it's going to take a little more work than what we want to do interactively to get that far with it. Same thing with the totals, because even though we have this total here, and we could do some things where we're just doing it. There's actually an embed point now for row display of that break, so that this code would only display when that break is generated. You still have to add up each individual one and so forth, so it's much easier to do that in the array and let the array manage it. So I'm going to have to get a little further along in the demo class for next week so that we can get deep into that section of it, where we'll have a button that actually collapses and expands the rows. What I generally do is I also add a user setting that lets them say whether they want to start it as expanded or collapsed. There's a lot of different things we can do like that to make life a little easier on the user. Same thing, we can do totals. I'll figure out this layout issue. The other thing that we're going to get into is combo boxes and the issues with combo boxes and loopers. And Stephen, you beat your head on that wall. I remember early on of needing to have dynamic values in your combo boxes.
Yeah, I needed a different value in each in different records, and that was the issue.
Yeah, I
got confused. Different list, if you like, in the combo on each record. Yeah,
and you cannot do that in a looper because even though you see multiple instances of your combo box, they're really kind of treated as all the same instance. They can't have different values in their list. I have come up with a call it a faux combo box via a pop-up screen with some of the new features of 17, where I have been able to emulate a combo box. And in fact, yeah, exactly. You know, it comes down to, you know, at the end of the day, you just get the job done. And
the suggestion on the doco was to use an internal window to achieve what I was trying to do, but I couldn't work out how to do it. And
yeah,
I moved on. I didn't need to do it that much.
yeah, exactly. Well, unfortunately, is Don on?
He's not on here. No, he's on. He's not in here. You can show it.
Yeah. Our client, I couldn't. Yeah, our client, I couldn't convince him that he didn't need to do it.
Remember, it is recorded, though.
So I had to figure out a way to do it. Yeah. So if you'll notice, this combo box is not really a combo box. It's an entry field and a button. And what I do is this is actually a pop-up window with a list box in it that pops up on the entry field. And because that's a actual list box popping up in a pop-up, I can control the values that are in that list box. So by doing that, I was able to emulate a traditional combo box and have different values for each record. Yeah, it's not too bad. We'll get into that. I'm not sure if we'll get into that next week or the week after. There are also just issues with combo boxes in general. Once we start doing breaks, combo boxes work great in the header.
Not so much in the footer.
Once you've gone into breaks, combo boxes don't work at all in either the detail section or the footer. Combo boxes just don't work, period. Not that you can't get different values in them, you can't get any values in them. When you try to drop them down, there's just nothing there to drop down. So I had to create this just to get combo boxes, period, for footers and the detail sections.
Did you talk to PC Soft about that? Or are they aware of it?
Yes. It took me a week and a half, but yeah, Patrick finally tapped out and submitted that. Yes, I was showing him a problem with loopers and combo boxes, and it's been submitted to develop.
So it'll all be fixed in 18 as soon as he's got it down perfect.
Yeah. and then all I got to do is go rip out a few thousand lines of, you know, workaround. So anyway, we've started down the basics of doing our breaks. We added a property. We configured. Let me point that out. Once you start getting breaks and stuff on your loopers, it gets harder and harder to select your actual looper. Pretty much the way you need to do it is find an empty section inside the detail band, and when you do that, you'll see that the whole looper gets selected. So we added our attribute, then we added a break on that attribute, and that's how we started down this road of setting up our looper to have breaks on it. And then next week we'll carry that to fruition and add some features to collapse and expand those breaks. Do some more fancies with totals and all kinds of great wonderful things. So, is everyone thoroughly confused at this point?
As always, thanks, Pete. The best thing I got out tonight was the generic array sort. That was brilliant. It's a great thing to have. Yeah.
It's a great little method to include.
Make my life easier. Thanks for doing all the inroads.
Okay. Is there a way to add a progress bar in a looper? You mean while it's building, or?
Arnold, mute me for a moment, please.
There isn't necessarily a progress bar, at least one that I've never worked out, but there is an Ajax indicator, and you see that when this other project of ours runs. When I changed this, notice the working came up. That is the Ajax indicator that's doing that. And let me show you where that is set. For the page, we set a control and centered for the Ajax indicator, and that's this control right up here, static Ajax. So anytime Ajax is doing something, which because that looper is Ajax, when it's rebuilding that looper, it displays that working static that I've created. So not exactly a progress bar. I'm not sure if there'd be a way to do a progress bar. You know, you're somewhat limited on your back and forth feedback that you have with WebDev. But anytime Ajax is back working, communicating with the server, that Ajax indicator will pop up. And I find that Ajax indicator to be about a 75–80% thing. It definitely does not always get displayed. IE seems, you know, I know this is going to come to it as a shock, but IE seems to be the worst at not properly displaying the Ajax indicator. Sometimes in my code, I can manually unhide it, and that helps. But even then, sometimes I can't get the Ajax indicator to display. So I've never gotten my Ajax indicators to be perfectly displayed every time something that's happening.
Pete, just quickly, can you put in one of the gifts which gives you a rolling effect, which you usually get?
I tried that, and it doesn't seem to work. I've tried using a GIF, an image control there with an animated GIF. In fact, you know, they give us one in the catalog that does that. And you'll notice on some of their tables that one sometimes pops up when a table is rebuilding, and it has a little rotating thing. But when I try to select that same GIF, it never rotates. It just comes up as static. It doesn't rotate.
Did you, because sometimes if you right click on the image, there's a property which tells you how many, let's call it steps or things it has? Did you set that up?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't worked on it in quite a while, but I did fight with that once, and I never could get it to rotate. So I came up with my red box that says working, and you know, said, there you go, I'm doing something. Leave me alone.
Because I've noticed they've got that setting which shows you how many images within it. It looks like if it goes from left to right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that.
From left to right, they've got the enable, disabled functionality, and if it goes down in images, that's what they call the roll effect or animation effect. Just on that American layout, though, just right-click on that icon there, that little flag, because that's a picture, isn't it?
Actually, it's not. That's part of the background.
Ah, okay. I was just looking for an image just to right-click there and.
This is the button. Yeah, I don't actually have any images on here.
I was just wanted to point out because from left to right, it's the able disable thing.
Well, first of all,
now Pete, isn't the working just a cell, isn't it? It's just a cell with a background, right?
Yeah, no, it's just a static.
Yeah, well, it's you just got a static image.
Yeah, no, it's just a static control.
But you can refer to any.
Well, just a second here.
Yeah, you can point.
Okay, then
you can point to any
progress bar. If you wanted a progress bar, point it to a cell with the progress field in it.
Right, but I don't know that the progress bar is going to do anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, but just go to that image.
Yeah, let me switch back over here. I don't want to do it in our production.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Project, strangely enough.
If you right-click and then not that next one. Just trying to remember where it is. Where do you put the image in?
Yeah, see, and I'm not sure that you have. I know what you're talking about. I don't know that you have that.
There it is. Says transition effects. Effect none.
Well, the transitional effect, all it does is the fade in and out. When it first displays.
Somewhere I can't remember, but there is a section which it tells you how many states it's got, and the states is whenever you gray, visible, non-visible kind of thing, and then. Then they've got what's the other one? Animation setting, and it'll ask you how many animations it's got. That's why when you go to this, there's stock stuff.
Are you sure that's in WebDev?
Yeah. Okay. That's maybe where I'm getting confused. It might be WINDEV.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. All right. There's a lot of that stuff that's not exposed in WebDev.
Okay. I'll play around with that and I'll let you know.
Yeah, I appreciate that because, like I said, I played with it for half a day and couldn't ever get. I could get the little rotator thing to show, but I never could get it to actually kick in and start rotating.
Okay, just stayed in one state basically.
Right, exactly.
Didn't flip over. Okay.
And like I said, I also, especially in IE, I have a lot of trouble with it displaying at all.
Talk about IE.
Like about half the time, Ajax kicks in, and the Ajax indicator does not get displayed.
Okay, all right. Thanks. Good stuff. A lot of inroads you made there. Shortened my learning curve. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, we will try to have everything prepared. This next section is going to take me a couple hours to get all set up so that we can step through it all next week. There's a little more work to get it set up, so I'm going to have to break down and be prepared for next week's.
No more on the fly.
Thank God Uncle Pete's Corner.
That's right.
Well. Oh, wait a minute.
Shh, don't tell him. Shh.
Wait a minute.
Well, we'd rather owe you than beat you out of it.
There we go.
As a note, tomorrow, everyone, we will be publishing I don't know that we'll have a session, but we will be publishing the feature set for the Chatterbox system that we're going to build for the developers conference this fall in August. It's going to have some nice features. It's going to have some nice things with it, and running on all 3 platforms. So we're going to be developing it to work on all 3 platforms at the same time. And you're going to see why we do things a certain way because of that reason alone. They'll also, one of the key features that everybody has looked at but hadn't really messed with much is that we will be including replication in on it. So it would be, we'll go through a little bit, we'll publish it, we'll answer all the questions, things like that, and this will be something to keep your ear down over for sure, because it's going to be well worth the time and effort and knowledge, because we will be starting to use it this fall for everybody that's in the Skype chat room. We're going to be moving over to this to make it a little bit easier on all of us.
Hey, what backend are you going to use?
We're going to use 2 backends. The main one that has all of the major data, because literally we're mashing up. We're going to do a mashup type thing of a bunch of content across the board. Will be Postgres, but we'll be actually replicating Postgres to hyperfile. So the replication in WINDEV allows you to replicate data between dissimilar databases, which is a cool feature because most replications do not do that at all. So what we'll do is we will actually have a replication to where we can put a hyperfile down there in Steve's area in Australia, or somebody, donate a machine to put a hyperfile down there, and I know we'll do one in Ben's area in South Africa. Then we can get somebody over in Europe, England, somewhere like that. We'll replicate there as well. But those will be hyperfile in those areas. Those will be hyperfile. And then, here's the cool part. Since it's being replicated, we're going to set up a subscription to the replication. So like Wolfgang there, if he wants to have it on his personal server, he'll be able to fire up, get the hyperfile files that he needs to do that, and sign up for the replication, and things can be then replicating in background to his local machine or his local server if he wants to, for like an intranet into his business.
So is this in essence going to be like a distributed database?
To a point, not really distributed now, because there's certain areas around it. Because let's kind of talk about the 2 dissimilar things. You got a news group type feature, which is basically put in a question to let people answer your question. Okay, we've kind of seen those in different areas and things like that. That will be a distributed. In other words, it will be replicated back and forth. Okay. You will put, if you subscribe, you'll actually submit it into your local, and it will replicate up to the main and then distribute out to everybody. Okay? The chat is the only thing that would be nearly impossible to do. Okay? The chat will be running actually via web services. So we're going to be running that via web services. And
that makes sense. Otherwise, you'd be out of sync, really.
Right. And then the history of the chat, though, will be replicated down to the local servers. So that way you can search back through history and things like that. But the current chat, anytime you send a message, will actually go to directly to the main server via web services. And because you're online anyway, just like you are chat, it makes no difference. And then what happens is the history of that gets replicated down to your local machine later on, so that way you can do search and things like this. And with the mashup and everything, we're actually going to do RSS feeds in from the MySnip forum that's been out there for a while. And you're going to, Pete has guaranteed that he's going to do a Google-type search against all of that information.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What was that?
Google type search against all that information, so that way we can hunt for things when we're searching to resolve problems.
I can't wait to see how you do that. I can't wait to see
I
how
said,
you do that.
Pete, you're the web guy, dude.
Me neither.
Oh.
Me neither. I can't wait to see you do it.
But we've done some cool feat things so far. Pete has done some great things web-wise, and you know, we've been going back and forth with this, and the exercise we did in that video where we took a certain process and made it work on all 3 platforms at the same time was somewhat of a step off and a prelude of what we're going to be doing on the Chatterbox. Okay? So we know we can do it now. We know what we need to do to make it work. Okay? We'll refine that as we move forward, is what we'll do. We will be releasing software as we move forward. So there will be source code available for those that sign up during this process, not waiting until August to get it. But there will be source code available for it. And the last thing is that obviously if source code is released and you don't understand something, tough. Wait till we're finished, and then we'll tell you why we did it that way, or until we say that part's finished, then we'll explain it. Because we may go down a path and then back the truck up. We'll see. But either direction, you know, it ought to be pretty cool. And the mobile right now, I know there'll be 2 features in the mobile. You will be able to go through all of the newsgroup stuff, and you'll also be able to chat on mobile. You will be able to chat on your mobile device. So both of those will be available on tablets and things like that if you want to.
So you're saying that you can do screenshots and share them too?
That is one thing. Here's the cool part. We're going to do the screenshots. Now, the web version, I don't know that the web can do screenshots, but I know the desktop can because WINDEV actually lets you do that. Okay? Yeah. But here's the other cool part. We have hunted down, and I found one. It's kind of ugly. I'm going to try to find a better one. But we've actually found an API to do presentation and screen sharing. Okay? So I'm going to research that some more, and that's going to be one of the features to where literally you can go off into your own little chat room and says, "Show me your screen," and then click a button and show your screen and work with it. You know, things like that. A real community type thing is what it's going to be. And the biggest thing is that, you know, it's the whole mashup thing. You know, gathering all this stuff that's been out there and giving a central area to say this is where you can come get the info and get assistance and work through new features and things like that. And it's we'll actually use this software right after the DEF CON. I'll be pushing everybody out of Skype and over to it.
Hey, you know what? The one thing I like about Skype is I can edit. I tell you, my message, I can...
You will be able to edit your message. You will be able to edit your message. Yeah, well...
I remove it.
Yeah. Well, we'll give you that capability also.
All right.
Maybe not in version 1, but in version 2.
Yeah, but can
I love that little up... I love that little up arrow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The up arrow to get the last.
Go ahead on.
Right.
Yeah. Can you do your moonshine?
Actually, there is emoticons out there. I haven't quite figured out how to make them work, but I can promise you that if I can figure out how to make the emoticons work, I guarantee you there will be a moonshine emoticon out there.
Just for you, Arnold.
No, for himself, not me.
And personally, I think I'm pretty upset about it in the first place because they used to have the little old man, bald-headed old man doing it. Now they got some girl. I preferred the little old bald man. I mean, that was funnier than the girl doing it. So, just
hey, can you put a little announcement area? So I just have a special place to announce webinars or training or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, a sticky. Yeah, the sticky area. Yeah, like a forum, it just stays at the top or somewhere.
Yeah, and in essence, that's what, there's going to be, we'll go down through the features, and what I think that we're going to have an open deal in here with Arnold over the feature set, and I don't care, we can throw out all the features we want. Now, the question is what will be available in August, because we got X amount of time to get all this done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do want all the, right, I do, and I do want an advertisement area. I want a an area for scheduler, so that way you can see the schedule of events coming up, either webinars coming up, things like this. So there'll be a scheduler component in on that for both the web and the local. So the schedule will be used. All that kind of stuff will be.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it is that with both the WINDEV and the WebDev, right out of the moment is all that's going to be run via web services. And so in essence, what happens is that you're going to see no connection unless you're subscribed. You will not connect locally to anything. You will all run it via web services only. All through classes, seamless. You won't know any different.
Really interested to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be some cool stuff. It's going to be some really cool stuff. So anyway, we'll post what features we know, the major features tomorrow. Okay? Whether or not that we do a session, discuss it, it may be Sunday evening or something like that, because we want to try to see if we can get several different groups involved, the South African bunch and Stephen from Australia and stuff, so that way we can try to get as many people that can come online at the same time. And
down under and down over.
Yeah. If I have to stay up till 11 or 12 midnight to make it happen, I don't mind. But that'd be early morning in Wolfgang's area, isn't it? Because you're only 6 hours different from me.
Yeah. Let us know, then we'll make a plan.
Yeah, well, we'll make a plan.
If it's a Sunday, then it's pretty much I'll be there.
Yeah.
It's just during the weekday, it's sometimes difficult. Clients call me away, and then
yeah, no, I got you there. I understand that, and we'll go from there. Okay.
Anytime after between 9 and 5, anytime after that, it's usually a go ahead, 100%, because I don't have a diary or somebody phoning me as a whole, which is great. Okay, thank you.
It ought to be great. But anyway, we'll post that all up tomorrow, and we'll probably post a webinar to do Sunday to discuss all the feature sets, because I'm going to add them all, and we'll discuss what they do, what we think they're going to do, because this is a community project. May not everybody be able to join us in August, even though I wished everybody could and would. But this is not going to be, this is a community project for the community we have and the community we want to grow. So I think that as a big mashup thing, I think it's going to work great for us.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
He done fixed it. See, I knew if I talked long enough, he'd figure it out.
Yeah, it's very odd how you do the layout. This pushes everything together. You can't actually adjust the detail section. You got to push everything together, which is going to mash or stretch out the detail section. Then you have to adjust your layout for your headers and footers from there. It's another one of those things that's you got to experiment with a little bit to get it. See, I stretched that one now that I did that. I can stretch this one down.
Pete, when you go to the body section, just right click. Doesn't it have a resize option?
No, see, you can't actually click the detail section at all.
Okay.
When you do, you're actually selecting the entire looper. So that's what makes it a little weird. So the only way to affect the size of the detail section is to affect the entire size.
Yeah.
And then adjust your footers and headers.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, like the internal window, you do the whole plonking down over your controls, and then right at the end, I'll just resize, and then it cuts it nicely into a square box around what you've done.
Yeah. See, that
this doesn't do that.
Go all wacky.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
So, you know, it's another one of those. You know, it's kind of exactly where I'm at with zones at this point. I can get them to work, but there's a reason I haven't done the definitive end-all webinars on zones, because there's still a little black magic. I get them to work, but can't really explain how I get them to work.
Yeah, some got you still, which you don't know quite.
Yeah. Yeah, it's another one of those.
No, I've been playing around with it. It's kind of a bit frustrating because I've tried to get things, and sometimes you can't get to a control, and I sometimes end up moving it forward or backwards temporarily to get where I want to be able to work.
Right.
If you go control, I think it's control forward and backwards, because it keeps selecting the wrong darn things, and it irritates the crap out of me. But yeah, I haven't figured that out myself, how to get to the one I want sometimes.
And it'll get even more frustrating on this looper layout. Is once you do finally get it working, then go look at it in IE, and it looks completely different.
It makes you feel so good.
Not really is what.
Yeah.
What you see, what you get is two different things, eh?
Exactly. So the one thing I will leave you with this week on the looper break subject is they're really powerful. You can do some very cool stuff with them, but don't just say, "Hey, you know, I think I'm going to do breaks in my looper just for the hell of it." You know, they're very useful, but you know, not to be used lightly.
Yeah. You get your powerful headaches too with it.
Exactly.
No, I'm still trying to struggle to the WinDev side. I've got more or less used to the fact how to get to the certain things, but the WebDev one, I'm still battling to get it the way I want it. But anyway.
Yeah, and the forward-back thing does not work quite the same as it does.
No, that's why I say sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't.
Reinitialize.
And then you wonder why it worked one time, and next time you try it again, it doesn't dang well want to go the way you want it. So I don't know. There's no magic yet I found to make it work.
The cure rotating letters on the tax cure, it seems like about once a month, one of those letters will get out of order, and you know, I haven't done anything. It's just magically one of the letters decides to jump to the front instead of being back where it's supposed to be, and it's another one of those ones where I click on it, just move it around a couple times, and suddenly it gets back to where it's supposed to be. I'm happy. It's happy.
Yeah. Oh well. Thanks again. Enjoyed it.
Hey, if the tool was perfect, you know, there'd be guys not as smart as us out there, you know, competing against.
You are. All right. Ain't had this much fun since Grandma died. Arnold, you live?
You want me to stop the recording now?
All I can say is be good at it.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for you to say.